Hello. I think it's fair to say that August has been although lucrative, probably quite stressful month to be Amberlynn Reid. There's been all sorts of drama from Emily to Aunt Tammy, and now there's all of this stuff which has come up about the transphobia and Casey and all of that. When it comes to all of the Casey stuff, Amber has absolutely no one to blame but herself. She made a very stupid comment in the LolCow Live Discord, and I think that she thought nobody would see it. We all saw it. This comment which she made caused her to face accusations of being transphobic, and because of these claims, Amber went live and attempted to clear her name of accusations of transphobia. But in doing so, many are claiming that she's accidentally confessed to lying about her accusations of R-word against her ex Casey. So in this video, I'm going to give a very short synopsis of the Casey history. I'm going to give my analysis of the comments that were made on the LolCow Live Discord. I'm going to address Amber's response to being called transphobic, and then I'm going to assess whether that response does in fact prove that she lied about Casey, because in my view it's not as simple as people are claiming, and I think it's worth talking about. I'm going to clearly chapter the video so that you can move around as needed. So, the Casey history. A very short TLDR of this Casey Amberlynn Reid drama is this. In May of 2016, Amberlynn Reid was, in my opinion, scrambling for content, and she posted a video with the title, "In an Abusive Relationship, I Was." This was a very sensational video title, and she goes on in this video to accuse Casey of this act. If you want to watch my analysis of this video and really get into what I thought about it, you can watch this video here, which I made the other day. I had a funny feeling that the Casey stuff might come back up, and it turned out that it has, which is a bit weird, so I happen to have just made videos about this. The video is now since deleted, but throughout this video, it's very clear to me and other people watching that Amber is lying. Her body language is completely suspicious in my opinion, and she made this video completely out of nowhere. This video is one of the worst things she's ever done in my opinion, and it's a massive part of her history of making serious, unfounded accusations without any proof against other people. Then, a few months later, in the September of 2016, Casey was told about this video from Amber, and he responded. He made this video here called "A Rebuttal to Amberlynn Reid's Accusation About Me Abusing and Raping Her." In this video, he absolutely refutes and denies Amber's claims. He in fact says that many of the things that Amber accused him of are actually things that she did to him. If you watch both videos back to back, I think it's quite clear, and it's my opinion, that Casey is far more credible of the two, and I'm inclined to believe his version of events. And I would say it's pretty widely accepted throughout girl world that Amber lied in this video when she accused Casey of R-word. After he made his rebuttal video, Amber came out and made this video, which is still up on her channel, and it's called Speaking Up, and this is where she read the infamous Rain and Petals eavesdrop poem, which I've also covered literally the other day in this video here, which you can also watch if you like. In this video, Amber repeats the line, "R-A-P-E, Rain and Petals eavesdrop, I used the wrong word." This was widely taken by most of the people who commented on it as an admission that she should never have used that word against Casey. She later went on to say that she should have used the word coerced, and to say that she was forced by Casey to do things. She's since doubled down on these allegations and claimed them to be 100% true. So I think it's fair to say she's done a lot of backing and forthing on her accusations, but she has firmly landed on the accusation that Casey S.A. her. 2 days after posting his rebuttal video, Casey then posted this video called Evidence, which contains this screenshot here. This screenshot is a message from Amberlynn Reid many years after the fact, reaching out to Casey and asking him for sex tips. Amber writes, "I know this is probably weird, but I really need to talk about this, so you're still the only person I've let touch me. That's really important. I've never even let Crystal, even after all the time we were together. I was too scared, too self-conscious, etc. I really want Destiny, the girl I'm going to be with, to be the next person I allow to do that to me. I'm scared though, like what do? I feel like I smelt bad when you did it to me. I shower every day now, so I'm different than I used to be, but it still worries the shit out of me. Again, I know this is so weird. You're the first person I trust to talk to about this though, actually the only person." Casey said in a video posted a little bit later that he felt kind of bad sharing this because it was embarrassing to Amber with relation to her hygiene, but he felt that his hand was forced.
Another question was about her hygiene. I'm not answering that. I believe my last message on there was embarrassing enough. And yes, I was undetermined about posting that because it is embarrassing. But that showed I didn't her. So I had to. I didn't want to at all, but I had to. I mean, that was the proof right there. And I feel bad for posting that one because it is very embarrassing. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, she embarrassed me because of blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of people are saying that I had a right to because she embarrassed me. No, I don't believe two wrongs make a right, but I had to do that, and I didn't like doing it because it is embarrassing, but I had to.
Casey felt that this message was evidence that he did not, in fact, R-word or harm Amber, because she was reaching out to him for basically tips. And I'm inclined to agree. I do think it's quite strange to send a message like this to somebody who you claim abused you, but I do have to state that there's a lot of grey area within this, and victims of this kind of thing act in all different kinds of ways and feel all different kinds of ways towards their abuser. So it's not great to generalise, and I have generalised in the past and said things like victims wouldn't do this or victims would do that, and I admit that that's not a very helpful way to talk about it. But in the instance of Amberlynn Reid specifically, and looking at this message specifically, I do think that this is pretty good evidence that Casey probably didn't R-word Amber, but I'm not looking at it in a vacuum. I take it along with a bunch of other stuff, including the way that Amber spoke in the video where she made the accusation, and the fact that she made other videos where she told lies in this period, and as I've said in another video, but I'm going to mention it here again, the way that Amber acts and speaks and her body language is very similar in the Casey video as it is in the video where she accuses her Aunt Tammy of not speaking to her because she's fat, even down to her intonation and the sentences she uses. So I don't feel, and I've never felt, that Amber's version of events are in any way credible. Also, this was later corroborated very recently by Aunt Tammy, who is Amber's auntie. She's causing a lot of the drama happening at the moment, and just a day or two ago, Tammy posted this video here called Aunt Tammy with some very special receipts, hashtag clear Casey's name. In this video, Aunt Tammy shows this screenshot, which on its own is not evidence of anything, but it does add to and kind of bolster the story that Amber's lying. Forgive me if you've watched my other video, but very quickly, Tammy messages Amber and says happy ? And the next day Amber replies, and this is just after she's moved away from Casey to live with her new girlfriend Crystal. It's a completely different lifestyle here, they're rich and so friendly, Crystal is a complete sweetheart, I'm still missing and loving Casey though, I feel like that will never end. And the point that Aunt Tammy is making is that this isn't something that somebody would say about a person who R-worded them, and once again we have to caveat this with people who are victims of this kind of thing behave in all kinds of different ways, so on its own this isn't evidence that Amber wasn't R-worded, but when you take it along with everything else that we know, it does add, in my opinion, to this theory that Amber lied. So the screenshot that I just showed you in the video that came from Aunt Tammy is what I think caused the allegations that Amber made against Tammy of being a PDF apologist. If you want to know all about that stuff, I talk about it in this video here that I posted yesterday, but I just kind of wanted to explain how that video linked to all of the PDF stuff, because these two kind of threads, the PDF thread and the transphobic Casey thread, both occurred at the same time. I also want to highlight this comment that I received on that previous video where somebody says, hey, so as somebody who was abused and raped brackets DV survivor, you absolutely can miss your abuser, so I don't really consider this to be evidence. And I just wanted to nod to this person because you're absolutely right, and I shouldn't make sweeping statements like victims wouldn't miss their abuser, because that's not always true, and this person is an example of that. So as I talk about this topic moving forward, I'm going to try and have more nuance surrounding that because I understand that that does make sense. So that's kind of how we got where we are now with all of the allegations that I addressed in my previous video, and that is what resulted, as I've said, in Amber making her PDF apologist arguments against Tammy, which then resulted in Tammy making this video where she claimed she was going to sue Amber and she called her a slanderous snake. I personally did not foresee a courthouse bees on the agenda for this year, but it seems like it might happen, and if it does, to be honest, I'll just be surprised that it took so long. During that mess, but before Amber made the PDF allegations, Amberlynn Reid joined the LolCow Live Discord. I think Amber thought she was safe on this Discord among her people, but of course her comments got out. On the Discord, Amber says that she'll be going on Tech Talk, which is one of the many LolCow Universe or whatever YouTube channels. And this is important context. So one of the hosts, or one of the people who does Tech Talk, is called Sweet Tea, and Sweet Tea had an experience where she was fingered by a man who had his penis accidentally removed during an accident. So on the LolCow Live Discord, there was this conversation. This is the conversation here, and one of these users says to Amber, I didn't know you were here, welcome to the show, I appreciate you supporting Sweet Tea. Sweet Tea is this lady who had this experience, and Amber says, her and I have a lot in common, and then a few messages later she writes, I also got fingered by a dickless man, and then she responds to her own message and writes JK, as in just kidding. So that's what sparked the controversy, that's how it happened and what went down. There's a lot of issues with it. One of the issues is that Amber did this completely unprompted. She just randomly decided to make this joke. Now, we are going to get quite deep and quite analytical into this, but I think it's really important. So Amber doesn't specify who she is talking about when she makes this comment, but people have assumed that it's her ex-partner Casey. Casey is trans. So following these comments, Amber was accused of transphobia. Just to be really clear, she wasn't accused of this by the people on the Discord. She claims that they all found what she said really funny.
I get it. That's funny. It is funny. Like, if you're part of that community, then it's funny. Like, people were laughing. If you're a part of that community, they were all laughing. People are reaching as per usual, Jay.
I'll put the video here of all of the comments that those people made. A couple of people put memes in and made a face like, what the heck? Somebody puts woman in capital letters, which I assume, or I kind of read it to be like girl or like bruh, you know what I mean? A little bit later in the thread, a couple of people do make some other jokes. Like somebody says, I think a dickless man, and Amber replies up the butt or question mark. So some of them do seem to think it's funny, but it's not like they were all just sat there absolutely cackling. That's just a bit of context about the conversation for you. But Amber responded to this situation twice. So the first time she responded to it was in this live stream here called Are You Serious? And when she addresses it here, she starts off by laughing about what she said.
She said she was fingered by a dickless man. This is how I know you guys don't understand. Oh my god. Why am I? Oh my god, I can't. That's actually not funny. The things that people come up with, I just don't know.
She then sees chats like these of people telling her that she's being transphobic. So someone says, that is transphobic, girl. Why are you being transphobic in the Discord? Why do you ignore hard questions? Don't you think what you said was a little insensitive? So disappointing, girl. So Amber then starts to defend herself.
I wasn't being transphobic. Okay, I guess now I can explain it, because now it wants to be turned into a transphobic thing. There is Sweet Tea, who is on Lolcow Tech Talk. Sweet Tea is a girl who said when she was younger, she was in a relationship who she cheated on her boyfriend because she was fingered by a guy who got his cut off by a machine. It was an accident. He is not transgender, nothing like that. So no, that's not transphobic. It was a joke because I was supposed to be interviewed by Sweet Tea, and I was making a joke, and I said me and Sweet Tea have a lot of things in common. I was also fingered by a dickless man.
All I see in this clip that I just watched is Amber repeating that she got fingered by a dickless man. So she's just saying it again. Somebody in her chat then comments this: people thought you were referring to Casey. Can you see why they would think that? I can absolutely see why people thought she was referring to Casey, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. But it is true that a lot of people thought this, and I don't think that it's like some sort of crazy baseless assumption to make, which is what Amber seems to say. She tries to make it sound like we're all just making this worse and twisting it and spinning it on its head, when actually I think it's a very fair jump to make. So Amber goes on to try and defend herself further, and in doing so she calls this comment that she made a pun. Listen to this.
It was supposed to be a pun, a joke. It was supposed to be funny. It was nothing, because that's never happened to me. So there was nothing transphobic about that. God, people are so dumb.
So Amber says that it was a pun and that it was supposed to be funny because it never happened to her. But I don't know if Amber understands what a pun actually is and like why they're funny, so forgive me for being patronising for like a second, but what makes a pun funny is the fact that this certain word or phrase has multiple meanings. Google defines a pun as a joke exploiting the different possible meanings of a word, or the fact that there are words which sound alike but have different meanings. And then we get this natty explanation: the Railway Society reception was an informal party of people of all stations, excuse the pun, in life. So that's an example. The word station has multiple different meanings, so that makes that sentence a pun. So the point of a pun is drawing a comparison between two instances or two things which can be referred to by the same word, or I would argue the same phrase. So that is why it's a pun. When Amber says that she was also fingered by a dickless man, and what makes it a pun is the fact that by saying this, Amberlynn Reid is stating that both she and Sweet Tea have been by a dickless man, and in using this phrase she is referring to two different instances of dickless men, One is Sweet Tea's experience with the injured man, and the other is, well, what is it? It's an experience that Amber seems to have had, which she claims that she's had. The person whose comment I showed above seemed to think that it was rational and reasonable to think that this man might be Casey. And I think it was Casey. I think that's exactly what Amber meant. Don't forget that in the comment above, the one where she says this, she says that her and Sweet Tea have this in common. They have this shared experience. So she absolutely is stating in this message that she was by a dickless man. So by calling it a pun, she's actually made it worse for herself, because she herself has admitted that what she's doing here is drawing comparisons between Sweet Tea's experience and her own experience, using these two different instances of what Amber describes as a dickless man. There's also, of course, the just grossness of referring to a trans man as a dickless man. As somebody who's dated a trans man in the past, there's only one, which is Casey, you can see very clearly why people would think that this comment was about him. I'm pretty certain that this is exactly what Amber meant. Part of the reason I'm so sure of this is that when she first starts talking about it, she says, this side of the internet won't get it, kind of suggesting that this side of the internet, girl world, are pearl clutchers or people who'll be offended, and that other side, the lolcow universe, are people who will get it or who might be okay with that kind of humour. The people who were laughing and who did seem to get it, they got it for a reason, because they understood the comparison that Amber was drawing. What I see in this chat, where Amber makes this joke, is a desperate individual who is so keen to get people to like her that she's willing to stoop to the level of making a joke at the expense of an individual who she's already lied about for content, and I think it's gross, and oh my fucking god, just leave Casey alone. Speaking of desperate individuals, in the chat there is also QLR, who is saying things like this. So after Amber makes her explanation, QLR writes, "Thank you for explaining, I was nervous." But Amber's explanation is absolute horseshit, so the fact that QLR appears to have fell for this so that she can maintain her relationship with Amber, which is getting her more into girl world, is just kind of icky. And then QLR also writes this. QLR, by the way, stands for Quirky Love Rosie, who's another girl who's trying to get into girl world. She comments in this stream, after Amber's shitty explanation, "They will always find a way to make what you did into something malicious. If somebody else made the joke, it would be a non-issue." So that is QLR claiming that she thinks jokes about dickless men at the expense of trans men is not a problem, and it's just a non-issue, so she can go fuck herself, in my opinion. I think there are ways of getting into girl world without licking Amberlynn Reid's fucking fupa, but anyway. In the clip I just played, which I'll play again here for you.
It was supposed to be a pun, a joke, it was supposed to be funny. It was nothing, because that's never happened to me. So there was nothing transphobic about that. God, people are so dumb.
You hear Amber say that because it never happened, as in she was never fingered by a dickless man, there's nothing transphobic about it. So she says in this live, in order to defend herself, that it never happened to her. But that is in direct contradiction to the comment that she made when she made the joke, and in direct contradiction to what she said in this stream.
It was a joke because I was supposed to be interviewed by Sweet Tea, and I was making a joke, and I said me and Sweet Tea have a lot of things in common. I was also fingered by a dickless man, because that's never happened to me.
It's my view, and it's very clear, that Amber is just backpedaling here. She was perfectly happy to make the joke in the stupid fucking Discord where she thought nobody would see it, and then once everyone saw it, she backtracked and tried to claim that it never happened, so that she can try and wriggle out of these claims of her being transphobic. Amber then goes on to rage quit, which you can see here.
But sometimes people troll so hard that people start to believe that I'm actually transphobic, and I'm like, that is not something that should be like a rumor, because it's not real, it's not true. Like, I stand for trans rights 1,000,000,000%, and that person wasn't even transgender. But yeah, I'm not gonna let my bad mood be like tainted by like literal trolls. So that's how easy it is for me to just be like, bye, see you guys later.
She does the classic Amberlynn Reid thing where she purposefully misunderstands people's questions in order to avoid admitting her own stupidity. An example of this is somebody asks her, "How did this conversation even come up?" And she answers and says, "Oh, I'm just explaining some drama that happened."
Where did the conversation even come from? Because someone called me saying that I made a transphobic comment, and I'm like, nah, if that's gonna be the rumor, I need to fix that right now. I need to fix that right the fuck now. That ain't cool. That is not gonna fly over here.
But I think what the person was really asking is, how come you said that in the Discord? Why did that come up? And the truth is, There was no fucking reason. Amber just wanted to make this joke, and so she did. Nobody was talking about the topic of a dickless man before, so Amber did this completely on her own. And so this is where it starts to get even more interesting. So in order to defend herself again from these accusations, Amber went live a second time, and this live was just after she rage quit the previous live, which is the one where she accused Tammy of being a PDF apologist. So it's this live here, and it's called "I Will Not Let This Rumour Spin Its Own Narrative," and it's only 3 minutes and 35 seconds. And in this live, Amber says this.
I want to make something extremely clear to everyone out there. I have been by 4 people in my life. Destiny, Becky, Feline, and Emily. I was never touched in that way by Casey. I want to make that very fucking clear. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back who didn't hear me the first time. It has only been by 4 people. Destiny, Beck, Feline, and Emily, okay? That is it.
Now, don't get me fucking started on just the ridiculousness of Amberlynn coming on live on a public live stream just to tell the entire internet the names of the people who have figured her. And don't get me started on how during this live she also dead names her other transgender ex, Beck. I know that accidents happen. I've misgendered Beck by accident in my videos, and you should just apologise and carry on and try not to do it again. But there is a certain irony, I think, that in a live stream where she's on there to try and prove that she's not transphobic, she fucking dead names her other ex. Come on, the point of this live is to show you're not transphobic and you dead name your ex. Like, it just doesn't look good. And also, don't get me fucking started on the patronising way that she talks and how she slows it down and goes, Beck, Destiny, like, it's absolutely cringe. You're probably still cringing from the clip that I just showed you. And we all know that when Amber talks like this, in my opinion, it's usually a lie. But I'm parking all of that because the main thing that I want to talk about is the claims that people have made that by saying this, she's admitting that she lied about Casey. And as much as I wish that it was that simple, it really isn't. We all but know or heavily suspect that she's lying in her video about Casey anyway, so we didn't need this live stream to debunk that. And don't get me wrong, this live is weird and tragic and inappropriate, but this particular live doesn't technically prove that she lied about Casey. And this is because in the Casey accusation video, she claims Casey R-worded her. She has already come out and said that she shouldn't have used that word. And if we want to get technical about it, in this Casey accusation video, Amber never actually accuses Casey of touching her. She accuses him of forcing her to touch him. So if you want to get into the semantics of it all, which of course Amber absolutely will want in order to try and muddy the waters and clear her name and get out of it on a technicality, technically, by saying Casey never fingered her, she's not going against her own claims because she never actually accused him of that. She accused him of R-word, which she absolutely shouldn't have done, but she's already come out and said that she used the wrong word and that she shouldn't have said that. Now, this is not me defending Amber at all. She absolutely lied about Casey. We already know that, but I'm just saying that this live doesn't really technically prove that. But I can understand how it seems like it does, because if you say it simply, Amber accused Casey of R-word and then she made a video saying that Casey never touched her. How can he possibly have R-worded her if he never touched her? But when you get into the semantics and the technicality, technically, Amber accused Casey of forcing her to do things to him, not the other way around, meaning that if Amber wanted to, she could still try and maintain her bullshit claims despite this live stream. But either way, that doesn't matter, because the point is, and most people who know a lot of this law already know, that she's already admitted that she lied when she said the R-word and she shouldn't have said it. So this live, although it's stupid and embarrassing, we already knew she was lying anyway. I hope that makes sense. The point is that Amber's claims were already not to be believed because of evidence that we've already seen. And remember earlier when I showed you this message and told you to note the part where she says you're still the only person I've let touch me? As much as I don't want to get into this fucking topic, when Amber talks about Casey touching her, she would probably just claim that he touched her in a different manner. He may have flicked the bean rather than driven through the tunnel, if you get what I'm saying. But the point is that she is going to try and beat us on her semantics. She's going to try and say, well, that's not what I meant in my life, and she's going to straw man people's arguments. So I think it's really important to admit from the very beginning that we're not saying that this live stream proves that she was lying. We already knew she was lying without the live stream. That's the point I'm trying to make. So we know Amber's lying, we already knew. This live stream technically doesn't really prove that, although it's pretty bloody awful. And of course, as we predicted, Amber did manage to get ahead kind of this accusation, because this Instagram user, Hello It's Heavy, who also has a YouTube channel, made this Instagram story at the time. She writes, Amber, you just fucked around and going to be finding out. Same as with Rain and Petals, you can't just go accusing people of being PDFs without actual proof. But I guess for someone like you, it takes a big slap in the face to maybe wake the fuck up. Then she ats Amber and she writes, P.S. You snitched on your own self in your live that Casey actually never did what you claimed he did. Just wanted to point that out. Hope this helps. And Amber replied to this person's story and wrote, Casey never forced touching me. He forced me to touch him. Sexual doesn't just look one way, get a fucking life. So, as we expected, this is the narrative that Amber ran with. And this response from Amber is not a surprise at all. She wants to get ahead of being called a liar using this technicality. So we can't let her say, I'm not lying, because it wasn't that kind of touching. Either way, she was still lying about Casey when she made the initial accusation. If, according to Amber, she was never touched in this way by Casey, then why did she make the comment in the first place? Who was this dickless man she was referring to? The only person it could have been is Casey. So if she's claiming she was never touched by him, then at the very least she lied when she made this comment in the Discord. Basically, I think I've given her too much credit here. The point is, she's a scumbag, she's a liar, and I don't even know why I'm putting in so much effort to analyse somebody's lies, but I think it's just, I don't want to just go, she's fucking lying, she's a scumbag. I want to systematically prove that she's a liar, because then she can't wriggle out of it. That's pretty much all there is to say on that. I think Amberlynn knew exactly what she was saying when she made that joke. We all know what she meant. She knows what she meant, so no matter what she says, she's a piece of shit. August has been an extremely controversial but also an extremely lucrative month for Amber. It's just been controversy after controversy, and following all of her other rage quits that she's done at the end of all of her recent lives, which by the way she's turned comments off on now, these all culminated in her rage quitting YouTube. She made this live stream where she says that she's leaving, but I'm going to cover that in my next video because she says some very interesting things in that video about reaction channels, and I want to address all of that separately, and I think it needs a little bit more time. I can't help but laugh because Amber rage quitting YouTube like this when she's under lots of scrutiny and she's facing lots of accusations really just makes me think of her saying this in a recent video.
Can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen type deal. You know what I'm saying?
And it's very clear that the heat in girl world has been turned way up at the moment, and Amber is clearly quickly retreating from the hot, sweaty kitchen of YouTube, but I'm sure she'll be back, and I think it will be much sooner than we expect, but we'll see. I'm going to leave that one there for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.